we're stepping outside of these artificial constraints to say, oh, that's not possible. No, why would a plant love that I'm in love with it? Well, why not?
Welcome to this episode of Eros and Earth, where we explore the transformative power of connecting with nature. Today, I'm joined by psychologist and author Julie Brams, who wrote The Nature-Embedded Mind. We talk about the concept of kinship-centric living and how embracing a nature-centered mindset can heal our foundational traumas. This episode will help you feel a deeper connection with the living world, which can transform your mental and emotional well-being. So join us as we midwife a new culture of harmony and kinship with the earth. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Eros and Earth. Today, I am with Julie Brams. Welcome, Julie.
Pleasure to be here.
I'm happy you're here. So Julie is a psychologist with 30 years of training. And then you recently wrote a book, Nature-Embedded Mind, and you're really on this mission to change the culture of psychology. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the book is sort of sometimes I think it's sort of like the culmination of everything that I've learned in my 30 plus years as a clinician and, really dedicating myself to understanding what is it that causes suffering in people, but most importantly, what relieves it. And so through my journey of kind of answering that question, I realized that there was this major glitch, I'm going to say, in the operating system, in our mentalization or our paradigm or the major framework that we're living within. And so once I realized that, it's the kind of thing, and in probably you and your listeners also maybe have even seen this. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. And once I couldn't deny that anymore, I felt like I really wanted to do what I could with my skill set to contribute to repairing our culture. And that took the form of, really challenging the field of Western psychology to redesign the foundation of what we consider mental health. So the book is really an introduction to these concepts. The actual practice of how do we do this is an embodied one. Like most things, we can't, we can understand things, we think things, but to actually live them, we have to engage in something that's a little more body-centered. So.
Right. I think that will absolutely make sense to people listening, focus on body-centered. And I was sharing before that the intention for this podcast is to midwife a new culture, right? So you feel it, I feel it, I think people listening feel like the culture that most of us have inherited is missing something major. How would you describe that missing element from the way you see it?
I think this is, like you're saying, many of us know this, and I feel personally that it's not a mistake that we're all honing in on this at this critical moment. I feel that the earth is calling us home. Maybe you also feel that. So we're midwifing a new culture, but we're not alone in that. Like, I believe that earth is actually helping us. The missing piece, I guess, from my perspective is this, well, I should say the thing that's causing the problem in my perspective is this anthropocentric or, human-centric premise that is pretty hidden in most of us. And so the piece that I think is helpful is to dismantle that, to actually understand what is it, how does it operate? And again, this isn't news, but really, how does it operate in my own mind or in one's own mind? And what are the ways to dismantle that? So it is something to do with one's own thought processes, but it is also part and parcel. It has to be done in kinship. So I think this kin-centric way of being is what's missing when we're talking about humans and the rest of nature, or humans and the other than human beings that we co-create one planet with. There is only one of us.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're talking about this shift from human-centric looking at the world to kinship-centric looking at the world. How does that show up? Like, for someone listening, how would they know if they're in a moment that's human-centric? And what would a different viewpoint look like?
Well, I think, most of the time we can bet that we're in a human-centric framework. Our culture is pushing it on us all the time. So a human-centric might be thinking, well, like the kinds of things that we say. I was talking to someone, and this kind of goes into a little bit of story of maybe the difference, but someone talking about that when they have a problem, they tend to go for a walk through this area on their property that is got trees and things. And they noticed that every time they passed this certain tree, they would get the answer to the problem. So a human-centric perspective might say, I figured it out. Oh, I figured it out. And this kin-centric way might be to thank the tree for its helpfulness, and maybe even do more than just a thank you, although a thank you is beautiful enough, but maybe even give something else. Now, what can I do for you? Do you need any help from me? So that real relationship piece with the other than humans. So I think that's kind of honing in on what do I mean anyway by these different words, kin-centric or human-centric.
Such a beautiful example. And it makes me think, I'm doing this interview in Bali. Certain trees, they'll wrap around with this black and white scarf, and that denotes that this tree has a spirit inside of it. And it's protected, and you can come and talk with the spirit of the tree. And it's so normal here and so strange, I think, in the US, which is where you and I are both from.
Right. Right. Because we're really, or at least I'm really mainly speaking about Western civilization. So the framework of Western civilization is to begin by dividing humans from the rest of nature. So that's what civilization says. Human beings are separate from, divided from, above, so then the ranking happens, the hierarchical thinking above, and then therefore can do whatever they want with, nature is there to serve human beings. We are somehow more important than the rest of creation, so that's what defines, yes, where I'm living, the United States.
So, I can feel intuitively this feeling of that feels awful to imagine separating from nature, being above nature. How does it actually hurt your patients? What is what's the mental and emotional and physical manifestations of that kind of worldview?
Yeah, that's a really important question, because again, I think that what I'm pointing to is a foundational trauma. So this being severed from earth, being severed from reality, is a traumatic experience that we continue to live under. What happens is, because we are forced, you may not feel like that at this point, but back in the day, it was forced out of this relationship, out of reality, that our nervous system is constantly dysregulated. So it's like a foundational dysregulation that we have come to accept as normal. Like, this is how it feels to be human. Yeah. And then on top of that dysregulation, we add on all of the effects of the things that we do to try to remedy that foundational rupture, which can be anything from, our normal loneliness, despair or depression, fear, anxiety, all of those I'm going to say like little ones are coming out of this deeper rupture, which is the body knows that it's part of Earth. It's never not part of Earth. Our mind is having to work overtime to say that's not true. And so it creates, again, like this foundational, I would just say it again, dysregulation. So once we do come back into alignment, your whole nervous system will downregulate in a way that is surprising because we don't know how much of a deficit we're working in until we start to begin this.
Wow. Wow. I love that framing around it's a foundational rupture, like almost the original trauma, it sounds like, is this disconnection from nature, from the living world. And you said our bodies know, but our minds are saying something different. Do you see a real like mind-body schism as a result of that rupture?
Yeah. I mean, that was part of the plan, so to speak, back in, around 500 BCE, this splitting humans away from the earth and then the mind away from the body, Descartes, I think, therefore I am. And, we're starting to reclaim that the mind and body are one thing. It's still hard for people to fully grasp that they're one thing, but the mind and body are one thing. The body and earth are one thing. The mind and earth are one thing. The earth and the mind is one thing, but nothing. Yeah. I mean, your body, we do understand in a way that our body is one unit that has different organs or different, is your skin more important or your veins? It's like,
right. It's all important.
You can't. It's like what it is. I was thinking, I was walking down the street thinking about these kinds of questions to help illuminate this. And it's like, what's more important, your hand or your forearm?
Right.
Now maybe somebody would say, well, my hand is more important because it does these things. And it's like, okay, then I'm going to remove your hand and your forearm. Now you have your hand, but no forearm. It's like, what? Right? But this is what we're living with mentally. We're living with, oh no, we're all separate. We're divided. And these things are more important. These things are less important. And it's like, whoa, again, like for your body, for your nervous system to have to cope with that is maddening.
Right. And you described it as rooting in reality because what you're saying about this schism, this separation, this hierarchy is not reality, right? It's not real in a living sense. Right.
Yeah. It absolutely isn't real. It's a complete mental fabrication. And we've seen where it goes.
Yeah, right.
And this is not a good idea. It's like one day human beings were like, let's see what happens if we think we're superior to the rest of nature. It's like, okay, we found out it's not a good idea. Like, right. Come back.
Right. I mean, look at the whole meta crisis, the collapse. And
oh my goodness.
When we look at nature as a resource, it brings out the worst parts in us.
And I would say also not natural parts. They're the parts that are suffering, right? Because we're so dysregulated with no good answer given from the powers that be, given from the culture, Western culture, that we do terrible things. We're in so much pain.
Right. Right. Because we feel can't. One of the things I'm really noticing is like when people aren't connected to their felt sense, they can do terrible things, right? Like if you can't feel the pain of an animal, you can lock the animal in a cage all day and feel nothing about it. Mm-hmm. Right. So is part of your work getting people more connected with that felt sense? That's the first question. And then if it is, like, how do you do that?
Yeah. Okay. So again, this is going back to moving away from human-centric. Mm-hmm. In the work that I'm doing that I'm calling rerouting or re-earthing, the title of the book, The Nature Embedded Mind, the teacher is the rest of nature. It's not a human being at all. So it's definitely reliant on a felt sense. It's reliant on the senses that we're familiar with. We can talk about the basic 5 that we usually refer to, knowing that we've got whatever it is, 33 or 55, depending on who's counting. We have so many senses. And I'm going to hypothesize that there may even be more that we have forgotten because we live in this condition. But yes, to reconnect to felt sense, to reconnect to one's body, and then interact, communicate, relate with an other than human being to inform even more of you on what it is to be human. So it's really leaning into the sentience, the intelligence, the wisdom, the love from the more than human world. All of them, not just the ones that we think are okay, but really embracing, like suspending our disbelief, suspending whatever our embarrassment or shame, whatever holds us in this false paradigm, to really allow elements to inform us, the water, the fire. I mean, again, this is not new. This is ancient. This is indigenous. We have indigenous contemporaries that are very skilled in this. This is really about the Western culture that is suffering so much and causing so much harm on such a grand scale. Yeah, I know I kind of went backward with that.
No.
Yeah.
It really, it makes so much sense, and as you're speaking, I feel like that we're part of this movement, right? Of people remembering this connection and coming back home to it. And I love your description of like learning from something that's not a human. And so I'm imagining this animal in the cage, like talking to the animal and feeling it and asking like what it's like for you and the humility that would require, right? Like it's taking off the hierarchy and coming back into relationship.
Absolutely.
As a side note, have you seen the movie The Wolf Walkers?
I have not. No.
Oh my gosh. I think you would love it.
Should. Okay.
I just watched
All
it.
right.
It's an animated film, but it's so beautifully done. And it's about these mom and daughters who run with wolves. And then the mother gets caged by the civilization. And the civilization's trying to kill all the wolves. And basically, it's exactly what you're talking about if you see it as an analogy for these two cultures. One is trying to dominate and control nature, and one is trying to live with nature. So that's all I'll say. But you should definitely watch it. Anyone listening also, I was so moved by it and what it represents mythologically, this wave that we're a part of.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm really glad that you are talking about that there is this collective wave, or, I think of like a groundswell, that we are all in the position to create this change. And that's, again, where I've been talking about the right that we have to do that, and also the responsibility that we have to do that. And taking care of our own mind is really, that's what I really believe is a big piece of how we won't accidentally recreate this hierarchical power over, even in our best intentions, we won't do anything if the paradigm isn't different. Our actions follow our story. So
I'm curious about your personal practices, right? Because this is countercultural, and yet you live in this culture, you live in LA, that you're inside of a dominant cultural paradigm. So what do you do to help you remember this different worldview and really hold it inside your mind so you don't get swept into the dominant culture you're a part of?
I've been living this way, or I should say exploring this way of life, for about 8 years. So it's become a lot easier, in certain ways. It's not something I don't think I forget anymore. And so I would say to anyone that wants to do this, that it is, over time, it really does become your nature. But the practices, I think, are basically what I outlined in the book, what I looked for as a psychologist, as someone who's scientifically minded, was a a method that was standardized and repeatable and accessible across all differences. And I found it through a man named Amos Clifford, who founded the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy Guides. And their particular model is, I promote it for clinicians, because I think, again, it's answering this question of, well, how do I do this? How would I bring this to my patients or my clients? Here it is. It's all mapped out. So no guesswork, and for anyone else that feels like they would like to have that kind of accessibility. Ecopsychology in its history has been kind of a maverick field, and there's been a lot of creative people, I'm standing on the shoulders of many, many, many really wonderful people who took this to heart and brought all kinds of practices into the world. But the one that I am talking about really uses some just invitations. We talk about invitations. And so these are things that I do myself as well, that go out, wander out onto the land, whatever that is, whether it's ocean, I'm near the ocean, so ocean, trees, mountain, whatever landscape, wander out, start to tune into your senses. What does this place sound like? What does this place smell like? So really, taking in the other than human beings that you're with in a sensory way, and then also adding in your own. So knowing, again, this is breaking that false separation or this dividing line that I am there as well. So what sound am I making? What else am I adding in? I thought about this too. The other day I was walking through Malibu Creek State Park, and I was thinking about how many beings were aware of me way before I was aware of them. They know we're there. We know they know. I've seen in Griffith Park, I've seen coyotes watching families having their little birthday party from up above, where I might have driven up to a higher level. And the coyotes are watching. They know. And the people having their birthday party have no idea that they're being observed. But so to break this barrier again, that I am seeing these beings and these beings are seeing me. Now, we don't have to necessarily make it like with their eyes, but they are aware of. So if it's a being that doesn't have eyes, let's say, it's aware of temperature, it's aware of movement. I just read some science thing about plants having color receptors. So even though they don't have eyes, they see color. So it's like they're very aware of us. Mosquitoes, my goodness. Mosquitoes will find the carbon dioxide way before, So they know we're here.
Yeah. It reminds me of this really profound moment I had where I was standing on a balcony looking over this beautiful view below of trees. And I was looking at, and then at one moment, the wind shook the leaves of the tree. And I had this thought, oh, the tree is waving at me. And it filled me with so much love and joy, because I think it was one of the first moments that I turned from a witness, I am here witnessing nature, to I am here engaging with nature in a conversation. Perfect. And I will never forget that feeling of warmth, and of intimacy that I hadn't had before.
Exactly. That's it right there. You just described it perfectly. That's how we do it. And I think also, I'll just say this because it's something that I've been contemplating lately, and just thinking about, what does a human being gift the world? And we can see many of the things that we do, our breath, our heat, our hair, skin, we're gifting a lot all the time. But I've been starting to think about what you said, like that feeling of love, that feeling of awe, that feeling like I've been kind of thinking of it as that heart swell, but as a frequency that is medicinal to whomever, right? Like it's certainly, yeah, we love it when we feel it from each other. And there's no reason to think that the other than humans don't love it when they feel it from us. You know, this is again where we're stepping outside of these artificial constraints to say, oh, that's not possible. You know, no, why would a plant love that I'm in love with it? You know, well, why not?
Why not? And, you know, I think this sense is so intuitive when we're kids. Like, I remember doing this experiment with plants where I yelled at one plant, like mean things, and then and then the other plant, I spoke sweetly and kindly, and I measured their growth. And that was my science experiment when I was like 7 or 8. And of course, the plant I spoke sweetly to was much taller. And you could say, oh, it got different carbon dioxide. But I knew intuitively at 7 or 8, I was like, the energy that I'm sending out to the plant is impacting it, and vice versa. And my kids know that. I have a 2 and a 4-year-old, and they love playing pets. And lately they've been saying, oh, you're the owner. And I changed them. I said, no, I'm the human friend. You'll be the kitty. I'll be the human friend rather than the owner, because it starts in our language too, right?
Oh, absolutely. It starts in our language. I mean, you're bringing up 2 really important things. And the one I just want to say about us as children, like you're saying, as children, we know this. This isn't about going back in time. It's not about going back into, you know, living in caves or something, unless you want to. But it's about the way we all naturally begin as children before we're indoctrinated and shamed or humiliated or ridiculed or made fun of until we stop saying it out loud. We may even keep it privately, but, you know, we're enculturated to be quiet about it, don't say it. So, yeah, I just wanted to pick up on what you were saying, that it is something that we all probably all know as children how to do this. It's letting ourselves as adults know that that's healthy, and that's actually, it's good for us. It's good for the planet. This is how we care for the planet.
Yeah. That's like coming back to this wisdom that we had as children, right? This innate sense that we are part of a living world.
Right. And also what you were saying about language, and this one's kind of ties together maybe children and language. I have said many times, and in the book, you know, if you do have a child around, let them also be your forest guide, because if you follow what they do, they're going to come up with all kinds of invitations with the more than human world. And then I was talking to someone who works with children, and we talked about, you know, children explore with all senses. You know, they may take the dirt or the rock and put it in their mouth. And so one thing is to say, maybe that's okay. You know, if you have enough curiosity, what does the rock taste like? What does the dirt taste like? But also, if you don't want to do that, should change the language. Like, this is grandmother Earth. You can kiss her, but don't eat her. You know, she doesn't want to be eaten, but you can kiss her, you know, but to change the language so it's not, don't touch that, or don't put that in your mouth. I'm turning it into this inanimate, yucky, ew, that's yucky, don't touch that. But more of this kinship, like, soil loves you, but doesn't want to be eaten by you.
Cool.
You know?
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that framing of like, it's not gross, but some things want to be interacted with differently than others.
Right.
You know, like my son is 2, and sometimes he'll go up to a plant and just want to pull all the leaves off the plant. And so then we'll say, ouch, that hurts. The plant's saying, ouch, no thank you.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing.
Right. Which again isn't like saying don't touch it, because I think this is part of what has happened to us, that we're living as if it's a museum or it's something, you know, I can't really get too close. But like you were talking about intimacy,
Right.
Yeah, you want to engage in all the ways respectfully, reciprocally, with empathy, with care, but definitely wanting to touch and to tend, just like we do with each other. Like, can you imagine? I mean, we did all go through pandemic where we weren't allowed to touch each other or be in the same room or whatever, people having to visit through windows, and oh my gosh, it was dreadful, and everyone got so depressed. So again, why would we cut ourselves off from all of these other beings that have so much love and care to give us, as well as the fact that they keep us alive? Like, there's that little fact.
Yeah. Well, I love that invitation to intimacy with the living world through our senses, right? Through touching, tasting, smelling. I've felt that sensuality and this new culture are connected in a certain way. And that might be one of the keys of it, right? I feel like the sensual intimacy with life.
Absolutely. And the sensuality, again, like even bringing it back to the nature of one's own body, that we can be sensual with our own body, and again, resist whatever shame might have been implanted. And again, I hope that it's less and I don't know, but I hope that it's less and less as the generations are younger. But, I'm an elder. I take that seriously. And I know in my generation and before me, it's very taboo. Like, no, you don't, you like, oh my gosh, like that you would caress your own arm. I'm not even talking about sexual, just sensual, like hug yourself. Like, I mean, there is you will get the same benefit of hugging yourself from hugging another person. But if you do that and say that, again, this shaming comes up, like, oh, that's weird. That's crazy. What's wrong with you? Like, no, it's all flipped. It's almost like we can just do the opposite and start to feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like we started the conversation with, I think we both have a sense something's missing. And it sounds like from our conversation, the things that are missing are touch, sensuality, kinship, connecting with the living world, being a part of rather than above. Would you add anything to this?
Yeah, I think, and this isn't mine, I credit Gloria Steinem, although I don't know if she was the first person to say it, but I think it's very useful, as she said, to imagine yourself linked, not ranked. So if you can allow yourself to flatten that hierarchy and just link, okay? And then people will, I think, initially imagine human beings linked, not ranked. Great. But linking with all the beings, that is an amazing group. That is a strong group of beings that are really living in harmony, And we can join, we can link up with that powerful group of beings, again, that make up one amazing being named Earth. So I say it because it's a little bit of a cheat sheet, so
it's beautiful.
When you linked, not ranked. And when you catch yourself, if you catch yourself thinking to yourself, am I good enough? You're in the hierarchy, you're in the ranking. So when you think back to, I'm linked, this idea of, am I good enough, disappears. Like, what is that? Doesn't make any sense.
Right. The hand's not better than the forearm.
Right.
They can't be better than the forearm because they're linked.
Right. And I'm certainly not better than a bee. Like, have we all decided now? I feel like there's been enough science that the bee is the most important if we have to rank. So.
Right. And I find it so interesting too. I'm hearing ways that this is emerging, this consciousness is emerging in business and in work. Last week I went to an AI conference and someone is building a regenerative AI tool. And as they're making decisions, they have literal empty seats at the table for different species that are impacted by their work. and they imagine
Goodness.
like, what would the bear say about this decision? And what would the trees say about this? And I just thought that was such a cool physical way to include others in the conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just at, I don't know if you know the Bioneers conference.
No.
I was at, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to explain it, but it's a conference of thought leaders that are exploring these same questions. How do we move forward? Like, we're not going to lose our technology, but how do we move forward in life, connected to the biosphere, connected, like, again, like earth centering. And I went to a breakout session that was about interspecies communication. And it's like reminding me of that, like that, science loves this and is finding out, again, it's giving us more and more permission to behave in the way that's congruent with what we know in our heart of hearts. The more scientific proof we get, the more we can say, look, this is reality. This is not woo-woo. This is reality. And here's the science behind it. So it's fascinating to me even that science brings us back to earth.
Right. Right. Like,
Yeah.
they're using AI now to communicate with other species, to decipher what they're saying and then to translate back between human language. But it starts, as you're saying, with your work, is this consciousness, right? This worldview shift.
Right. And trusting your own intuition, your own innate sense that you don't need to wait for AI to map out something. Just go out and spend time with one or more other than humans that call your attention. Like, I invite people to wander out and notice, which being wants to play with you. And you might notice that because it gets your attention. And how might it get your attention? It might be through fragrance. It might be through sound. It might be through movement. But letting your other than human ally grab your attention, and then spending time repeatedly, consistently, you will begin to learn more and more and more about this being. We don't have to wait for someone else to do it. This is what we do.
Wow. What a great practice. Just as we come to a close, like, I think I often ask the interviewer for one practice to leave the listeners with, but that might be the practice.
I think so. Yeah.
Right?
Yes. It's fun. It's heart opening. And again, you don't have to go with I'm so happy. No, the earth is very wise. You can go with a broken heart. You can go with grief. You can go with anger, as she's not afraid, and so to just connect heart to heart and see what happens. It's about, again, I wanted to say this, learning to go out and listen before you talk, being in yourself, knowing what you're bringing, being unafraid to go and listen. So
that's beautiful. Okay, I'm taking this as a practice. Going out into nature today, seeing what living being is calling my attention, and then listening.
Good.
Beautiful.
I love it.
Well, thank you so much, Julie. It's been such a great interview. I'll make sure to link to your website and the book so anyone listening can follow up and read your amazing book. Is there anything else you want to leave the listeners with?
Just a lot of love and a lot of, I know it's hard sometimes to stay optimistic and hopeful, but I really, really, when I move, out of my head and into my soul, I know that this is a really good way to, again, like, come back to yourself, come back to your best self, and live well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, so beautifully said. Oh, thank you so much. And
you're welcome. Thank you.
Till next time. I hope this episode touched you. If you loved it, share it with a friend or family member, or you can leave a review to help get the word out. Thank you. Until next time, root down, open up, Eros and Earth.